Violence at the polls. A voter bitten on the nose, and he blames an election worker. Good evening. I'm Danita Harris.
And I'm Lee Jordan. Things can get heated when it comes to Election Day, but we've never heard of anything quite like this. News Channel 5's John Kosick just talked with the man who was bitten. John, how in the world did something like this happen?
You know, good question, Lee. It sounds like something out of a Three Stooges short, but this really did happen. And if you ask the victim himself, he doesn't know quite how it happened. But check it out for yourself. Greg Flanagan bearing the scars that show on his nose from the attack that happened this afternoon at this West Side polling place, a church on Memphis Avenue. It started when Flanagan says a roving Board of Elections employee got into an argument with a campaign volunteer over campaign signs he felt were too close to the polling place. That's when Flanagan came along after voting and tried to intervene. That's when he said he exchanged words with the election workers, and then...
And the next thing I know, he headbutts me, and he's got his arm around me somehow. I don't know how, because I couldn't. By that time, I was in shock from getting headbutted, and he was biting my nose. And the guy working the polls here pulled the guy off me, or my nose would be on the sidewalk. You could see the blood when you walked up here.
What's going through your mind at this point?
I'm hoping that I don't lose my nose, honestly. That was going through my mind.
Amazing. Flanagan was taken to the Metro Health Medical Center where he was treated for his injuries. The Board of Elections cooperating with the police. That elections worker ran off. They have forwarded his name on to police. Police are looking for him at this point. Reporting live in the newsroom, John Kosick, News Channel 5.
Well, John, beyond this very bizarre incident, would you say that things have been going pretty smooth at the polls today?
Pretty smooth for the most part, Danita. One of the only things that was causing some confusion for some of the voters, this is the election ballot. You can see it's the first year for the bilingual ballot here in Cuyahoga County and in Lorain County, and that was giving some voters some pause. But for the most part, though, things are going pretty smoothly out there tonight.
Thank you very much, John Kosick, reporting live from our newsroom tonight, and I'm sure you'll have more for us later this evening on the election process.
Well, while statewide issue 2 has dominated election news, more than 40 school districts in Northeast Ohio have tax issues on the ballot. In Akron, the district is turning to voters for a $5.5 mil levy. David James, the superintendent of Akron Public Schools, joins us live to talk about the levy in 5 quick questions today. Are you ready for their first one, David?
Absolutely.
All right. How much would the levy cost the average taxpayer?
For the average taxpayer in the city of Akron, we're looking at about $7 per month in property taxes.
$7 more a month. So the second question is, how much will this generate for the school district?
Right, that $5.5 mil levy is estimated to generate about $14 million per year to fund school operations.
David, if the levy fails tonight, would teachers lose their jobs?
Well, we're trying to keep all of our cuts as far away from the classroom as possible. If the levy doesn't pass, we will have to come up with approximately $22 million in cuts each year for the next 3 years. It'll be very difficult for me to keep all of those cuts away from the classroom, but we'll look at some operations pieces first, and then as we go through, move on to looking at some impacts to the classroom.
So to make up that $22 million, specifically, what other cuts could the district be forced to make?
Well, we would have to really look at our health care costs, which is a major component. We're in the people business, so a lot of our expenditures are around salaries and benefits. And so for our employees, we would have to look at some changes to our benefit plan, and that would probably be the majority of where those cuts would come from.
And our last question, if the levy passes, will you be able to balance the budget, and for how long?
We'll be able to balance the budget. It'll be difficult. When we made the decision to go with a 5.5 versus a 10 mil levy, you know, we really looked at our public and we realized people are struggling. So the deal is this: voters approve a 5.5 mil levy, we'll have to make about $9 million in cuts versus the 22. And we're just going to work through and continuing our process of right-sizing the district and trying to cut back on expenditures and be as lean as possible without adversely impacting classroom instruction.
All right, David James with the Akron Public Schools, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. We'll be watching all of the school issues very closely tonight.